Richard Widmark was one of the toughest and most respected actors in classic Hollywood. Known for his sharp voice, intense eyes, and powerful performances, he became a major star during the golden age of movies. Audiences loved watching him in westerns, crime films, and war dramas because he always brought energy and emotion to every role. But behind the fame and success was a man who experienced pain, heartbreak, and struggles throughout his life. His journey from a small-town boy to a Hollywood legend was not easy. Richard Widmark worked hard for every opportunity he received, and he expected the same level of dedication from the people around him. Because of this, he often became frustrated with actors who treated acting casually or cared more about fame than the craft itself. Over the years, stories spread about several actors he strongly disliked. Some were accused of being lazy, while others were seen as arrogant or overly dramatic. Even though Widmark stayed professional in public, those close to him knew he had little patience for people who wasted talent or disrespected the work. At the same time, he remained a devoted husband, loving father, and loyal friend who valued honesty and discipline above everything else. His life was filled with unforgettable moments, both good and bad, and his legacy continues to live on through the many films he left behind. From his difficult childhood years to his rise in Hollywood and his opinions about famous co-stars, Richard Widmark's story is one of determination, loyalty, talent, and strong personal values. Richard Widmark was born on December 26, 1914, in Sunrise, Minnesota. His father, Carl Henry Widmark, worked as a traveling salesman, which meant the family moved often during Richard's childhood. Not long after his birth, the family relocated to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where his younger brother Donald was born in 1918. Richard and Donald became very close and remained deeply connected throughout their lives. Richard often said that his love for movies came from his Scottish grandmother, who adored Western films and cowboy star Tom Mix. She regularly took young Richard to the movie theater several times a week, and those trips left a lasting impression on him. Watching movies opened his imagination and slowly created his dream of becoming part of that exciting world. Eventually, the family settled in Princeton, Illinois, where Richard spent most of his school years. His father bought a bakery called Henry's Bakery, and the family lived in an apartment above the store. For the first time, they felt stable and settled. At Princeton High School, Richard was known as a smart and active student. He played football, joined school activities, and later became class president during his senior year. However, his teenage years were not completely happy. During his junior year, his parents separated, which deeply affected the family. His mother stayed in Princeton to raise Richard and Donald while his father lived elsewhere. Even with these difficulties, Richard remained focused on his future. After graduating in 1932, he earned a scholarship to Lake Forest College. At first, he planned to become a lawyer, but his life slowly changed after joining drama and speech activities. He discovered that he loved acting and public speaking. Even though he felt embarrassed at first because acting was not considered masculine by some people at the time, he could not ignore his growing passion for performing on stage. While studying at Lake Forest College, Richard Widmark continued to grow as both a student and performer. He played football, entered speech competitions, and became heavily involved in college theater productions. One of the biggest moments of his college years came when he met Jean Hazelwood, another drama student who shared his interest in acting and storytelling. Their friendship quickly turned into romance, and Jean became the love of Richard's life. She supported his dreams and stood beside him during every stage of his career. After graduating in 1936, Richard stayed at Lake Forest College for 2 more years, helping teach drama and speech classes. But deep inside, he wanted something bigger. In 1938, he moved to New York City to try building a career in radio acting. It was a risky decision because many young performers came to New York hoping for success, and only a few made it. Fortunately, Richard's deep voice, clear speech, and strong acting ability helped him stand out quickly. He soon found work in radio dramas and became extremely busy, racing from one studio to another. During the same period, Jean Hazelwood was also studying acting in New York, and the couple remained deeply committed to each other. In April 1942, just months after the United States entered World War II, Richard and Jean got married in Illinois. Their marriage would become one of the strongest relationships in Hollywood history, lasting more than 50 years without scandal or public drama. Richard often joked that he never even looked at another woman after meeting Jean because he truly loved his wife. While many Hollywood stars became famous for their affairs and divorces, Richard preferred quiet family life. Sadly, the war years also brought pain to the Widmark family. Richard tried to join the military but was rejected because of a perforated eardrum. His younger brother Donald, however, was drafted into service and sent overseas. In 1943, Donald's plane was shot down over the Netherlands. Although he survived and spent over a year in a German prison camp before returning home, his health was badly damaged. He suffered terrible headaches and later became partially paralyzed. In 1955, Donald died from a brain tumor at only 37 years old. Richard was devastated and always believed his brother never received the proper medical understanding and support he deserved. During the 1940s, Richard Widmark's acting career began moving forward quickly. He appeared in Broadway productions and also entertained American troops through performances organized during World War II. By this time, he was already earning good money through radio acting and theater work. In 1945, Richard and Jean welcomed their only child, Heath Widmark, into the world. Becoming a father brought him enormous happiness and made him even more determined to succeed. Around the same time, a major opportunity arrived that changed his life forever. A powerful executive at 20th Century Fox offered Richard the role of Tommy Udo, a violent criminal in the movie Kiss of Death. The role would become one of the most famous performances in film history. However, not everyone believed Richard was right for part. Director Henry Hathaway thought Widmark looked too intelligent and refined to play a dangerous killer. Despite these doubts, the studio gave him a role. Richard accepted mostly because the movie was being filmed in New York, which allowed him to stay close to his family. Amazingly, this was his first motion picture role. In one unforgettable scene, his character pushes an old woman in a wheelchair down a staircase while laughing wildly. The shocking moment terrified audiences and instantly made Richard Widmark famous. Critics praised his performance, and he received an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He also won a Golden Globe Award for Most Promising Newcomer. Although audiences loved the performance, Richard himself hated seeing his own face on screen for the first time and joked that he felt like shooting himself because he looked so terrible. Still, Hollywood now viewed him as a major star. The success of Kiss of Death led to a long-term studio contract and opened doors to bigger projects. Soon he appeared in films such as Yellow Sky, Roadhouse, and The Street with No Name. His performances were often intense and emotional, which made him perfect for crime dramas and westerns. Audiences loved his energy, while directors admired his professionalism and dedication. Unlike some stars who depended only on charm, Richard carefully studied every role and believed acting required discipline and respect. Ace Richard Widmark became more famous during the late 1940s and early 1950s. He worked with many major stars and directors. One important film was Panic in the Streets, directed by Elia Kazan, who had once encouraged Richard to audition for Kiss of Death. The movie also featured Jack Palance and Zero Mostel. Although critics respected the film, it struggled financially because filming on location in New Orleans made production very expensive. Soon afterward, Widmark starred in No Way Out alongside Sidney Poitier. The film dealt with racism and social tension, subjects that were controversial during that period. Richard played a cruel racist named Ray Biddle, a role he personally disliked because he hated racism in real life. After filming difficult scenes, he would often apologize to Poitier and remind him that the insults were only acting. Sidney Poitier later said Richard Widmark treated him with great kindness and became one of the first Hollywood actors to invite him into his home. Their friendship lasted for years and showed the respect Richard had for talented people who worked hard. During the 1950s, Widmark also starred in war films, westerns, and dramas that increased his popularity even more. In 1951, he appeared in Halls of Montezuma with Carl Malden, Jack Palance, Richard Boone, and a young Robert Wagner. The following year, he worked with Marilyn Monroe in Don't Bother to Knock. Richard later described Marilyn as fragile and deeply insecure. He remembered how frightened she often seemed on set and how difficult it could be for her to come out of her dressing room and perform scenes. Still, He admitted that once the camera rolled and the film was edited together, she looked magical on screen. Rumors often followed Marilyn Monroe everywhere she went, but Richard insisted she never flirted with him and remained professional around him. In 1954, Widmark appeared with Spencer Tracy and Robert Wagner in Broken Lance. Around this time, his contract with 20th Century Fox finally ended. After years of nonstop filming, Richard felt exhausted and wanted more freedom. He believed he could earn better money and choose stronger projects by becoming an independent actor rather than remaining under strict studio control. That a good director can often be recognized quickly because they know exactly how to shape a scene, guide actors, and bring emotion out of simple moments. The same idea is often used when talking about great actors from classic Hollywood. One of those names is Richard Widmark, a man whose screen presence was so strong that audiences remembered him long after the film ended. He was not just another performer in the golden age of cinema. He became known for intense roles, especially in crime films and westerns, where his sharp expressions and powerful voice made him stand out. His early career came at a time when Hollywood was changing fast, moving from simple storytelling into deeper, more emotional films. Widmark's performances helped shape that shift. Even when he played smaller roles, he had a way of controlling the scene without overacting. However, behind this success was a long journey filled with challenges, learning, and constant effort to prove himself. Like many stars of his era, he did not come from wealth or strong connections in Hollywood. Instead, he built his career step by step, starting from ordinary beginnings in small-town America. His story is often told as an example of how talent combined with determination can create lasting fame. Over time, he became one of the most recognized faces of classic cinema, especially in films that explore darker human emotions and moral conflicts. Richard Widmark was born in Sunrise, Minnesota, but his childhood did not stay in one place for long. His father worked as a traveling salesman, which meant the family moved often in search of better opportunities. Soon after his birth, the family settled for a time in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where his younger brother Donald was born. Growing up in a moving household gave Widmark a sense of adaptability early in life. He learned to adjust to new environments and new people, a skill that later helped him in acting. One of the strongest influences in his childhood was his Scottish grandmother. She had a deep love for cinema, especially cowboy films starring Tom Mix, a major silent film hero at that time. She often took young Richard to the movies several times a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times, which was unusual for that era. These early visits to the cinema created a lasting impression on him. He became fascinated by storytelling on screen, the emotions of actors, and the excitement of moving pictures. As the family continued relocating, they eventually settled in Illinois. This constant movement gave Widmark a mix of experiences from small towns across the Midwest, shaping his personality into someone observant, thoughtful, and aware of human behavior. These traits later became very useful in his acting career, where understanding emotions and motivations was essential for creating believable characters. As Richard Widmark grew older, his interest in performance began to take shape more seriously. During his school years, he was not immediately focused on acting as a career. Instead, he studied communication and developed a strong interest in speaking and storytelling. After finishing his education, he even worked in radio and later became a teacher, which helped him build confidence in front of audiences. Radio, in particular, played an important role in shaping his voice and timing. Unlike film acting, radio required actors to express emotion only through sound, without facial expressions or movement. This helped Widmark develop a strong vocal presence that later became one of his trademarks in movies. Eventually, his interest in performing led him toward the stage, where he began acting in plays. Theater gave him the discipline and live performance experience that Hollywood often demanded from serious actors. His early work was not easy, and like many beginners, he had to face rejection and competition. However, he continued improving his craft, learning how to deliver lines with precision and emotional depth. These early struggles were important because they prepared him for the demanding world of film acting. When Hollywood eventually discovered him, he was not an inexperienced newcomer, but someone who already understood performance from multiple angles. This combination of radio experience, teaching confidence, and stage discipline gave him a unique advantage over many other actors. Starting out at the same time that Widmark's breakthrough in Hollywood came with his first major film role, where he played a character that immediately shocked audiences. His performance in Kiss of Death 1947 made him famous almost overnight. In this film, he portrayed a cold and unpredictable criminal, and one particular scene, his unsettling laugh, became one of the most memorable moments in classic film history. It was not a heroic role, but it showed his ability to bring depth even to darker characters. Many actors of the time were typecast into either hero or villain roles, but Widmark proved that a villain could be just as complex and interesting as a hero. His performance was so powerful that it set the tone for many of his future roles. After this film, Hollywood saw him as a strong character actor capable of intense emotional delivery. He began receiving offers for similar roles, especially in film noir, a genre focused on crime, mystery, and moral conflict. Over time, he expanded into westerns and historical dramas, showing that he was not limited to one type of character. His ability to switch between tough villains, conflicted heroes, and authoritative figures made him one of the more flexible actors of his generation. This versatility helped him maintain a long and successful career in industry, where many stars faded quickly after a few hit films. Throughout his career,